a unique bill in a strange situation.
The Honourable Ruth Dyson.
Generally, when we get to this stage of the debate, when we're talking about the title and the commencement and the Principal Act, it is a very narrow debate, and it's generally a bit of a laugh. There's a bit of humour at some of the alternatives that the title might be given of a particular bill. I've heard a bit of that this morning. Some people have referred to this bill perhaps more appropriately being called the Total Disregard for Health, Safety and the Environment Bill, and that's certainly a very valid description. Some people have referred to it as the Minister's first bill, biggest mistake in Parliament bill. That's certainly an appropriate title, and others in the debate last evening referred to the possibility of it being called Who Came Knocking at the Minister's Door Bill, given that it's a huge puzzle to us. Not only why are we debating this bill at 9:20 on a Saturday morning, even though the calendar on the wall tells us it's a Thursday night, but what's the need for this bill to have gone through all stages under urgency? Well, the title doesn't give us any hint to that at all, as it is, except it's a very puzzling title. The Crown Minerals Amendment Act 2013, Amendment Act 2013. It looks like someone got their finger stuck on the button on the computer and just did a repeat in error or did a cut and paste. But it's not. If only that was the case. This bill that we are debating now amends an act that has yet to come into force. Like my colleague Ian Lees-Galloway, I looked through McGee to see if there was any precedent in this. I had perhaps less time than he had. He thought of the idea a lot earlier than I did. But I can't find anything in the history of our Parliament which has an amendment to an Act coming in to this Parliament and being debated before the primary Act has even been brought into force. It's absolutely unheard of. If it was a genuine technical mistake, if it was a genuine error, then I think we might be a bit more lenient on the Minister, Simon Bridges. But actually what he's done is chosen, in my view, to abuse the parliamentary process, not reflected it in the title, not reflected it in the commencement date of this legislation. He's abused the process of this Parliament because not only is he doing a couple of small technical amendments which may well have been needed and may have been agreed by all members of the House, but he's also chosen to do wholesale changes to the primary legislation as well. Mr. Chairman, this brings him into a very difficult situation. It is specifically reflected in the commencement of the bill, Clause 2. This Act comes into force on the day after the date on which it receives the royal assent. Well, generally the royal assent is straight after the bill has gone through the third reading. It gets shipped up through the appropriate processes and gets signed off, gets royal assent. Well, what happens if the royal assent on the amending legislation, and therefore this Act coming into force, the bill that we are debating now, comes into force before the primary legislation comes into force? What position does that put the Parliament in? Of course, people will say, oh, well, it may be just a matter of a few days. But actually, in a matter of the law, in the matter of big issues like health and safety responsibilities, like environmental considerations and responsibilities, like financial liability, if there is a major spill, if there is some disaster that is impacted on by this Crown Minerals Act, where would the liability lie? I think we'd have a huge legal debate. I think this bill could be called the Crown Minerals Let's Get Every Lawyer Internationally Excited bill, because this leaves itself wide open to some sort of challenge. And this is the area that we should be working in exactly the opposite direction. We should be giving security to the industry. That's clear. We should be making sure that the highest possible health and safety and environmental regimes are in place. This works in the opposite direction. We discussed last night in the earlier discussion about how the permit applicant doesn't even have to be able to prove that they have health and safety and environmental or financial ability to deal with the requirements of the legislation. This is bizarre, Mr Speaker.
Kanwaljit Singh Bakshi.
I move that the question be now put.
I'm going to hear from Carol Beaumont.